When you look up at the night sky, you see a scattering of stars. It feels vast, even overwhelming. But we are comforted by the light. We assume that space is a container filled with things, stars, planets, and glowing clouds of gas. But there is a place in our universe where the light dies, a place where the cosmic web is torn, leaving a silent, dark gap that stretches for hundreds of millions of light years. It is called the Boötes Void, and it is the closest thing to absolute nothingness we have ever found. For years, scientists have stared into this darkness, trying to understand how such a massive anomaly could exist in an otherwise crowded universe. The scale of this void is so immense that it challenges our understanding of cosmic structure. Before we stare into this abyss, make sure to subscribe. In 1981, astronomer Robert Kirshner and his team made a discovery that shocked the scientific community. They were mapping the large-scale structure of the universe, expecting to find a relatively even distribution of galaxies. Instead, they hit a wall of absolute silence. They found a region of space so empty that it seemed physically impossible. To understand how strange this is, we have to look at the cosmic web. The universe is not a random soup. It is structured like a giant web of glowing filaments made of dark matter and gas. Galaxies cling to these filaments, and where the filaments meet, massive clusters form. But between these filaments lie voids, giant bubbles of empty space. The Boötes Void is the king of these bubbles. It is so vast that it breaks the rules of how the universe was supposed to grow. When scientists first looked at the data, they thought it was a mistake. Let's try to grasp the sheer scale of this desolation. The Boötes Void is approximately 330 million light-years in diameter. That number is too large for the human brain to process. So let's look at an analogy. If the Milky Way, our giant home galaxy containing billions of stars, were the size of a single grain of sand, the Boötes Void would be the size of a massive sports stadium. Now imagine that stadium completely empty, except for a few tiny isolated grains of sand floating in the center. The volume of this void is so gargantuan that it makes up about 2% of the entire observable universe. Yet it contains almost nothing. If we look at a typical region of space of this size, we would expect to find about 10,000 galaxies. In the Boötes Void, we have only detected a few dozen. It is a cosmic desert of unimaginable proportions. This isolation creates a terrifying scenario. Imagine if the Milky Way were located at the absolute center of the Boötes Void. For thousands of years, humans would look up at the night sky and see only the stars of our own galaxy. The rest of the universe would be completely hidden from us by millions of light-years of absolute blackness. Astronomers would have developed telescopes, mapped our stars, and concluded that our galaxy was all that existed. That number stopped me cold when I first read it. Scientists estimate that we wouldn't have discovered other galaxies until the 1960s, when our technology became sensitive enough to detect the faint, distant light of the cosmic web across the abyss. We would have spent centuries believing we were completely alone in an infinite empty void. Our cosmic perspective would have been frozen in time, bounded by a darkness we could not penetrate. But the Boötes Void is not completely empty. As telescopes improved, astronomers began to spot a few lonely travelers inside the darkness. Today, we know of about 60 galaxies scattered across this vast region. Think about that for a second. 60 galaxies in a volume of space that should hold thousands. Because they are so far apart, these galaxies never interact. In normal space, galaxies are shaped by gravitational collisions and flybys, which trigger star formation and creates beautiful structures. But the galaxies inside the Boötes Void are different. They are highly isolated and some exhibit strange, distorted shapes. Scientists refer to them as headlights in the dark, because they are the only sources of light in a pitch-black cosmic ocean. If you were on a planet in one of these galaxies, the night sky would be almost entirely black, with only a few faint distant smudges of light on the far horizon. How does a space of this size become so empty? The standard model of cosmology offers a relatively simple explanation based on gravity and expansion. In the early universe, matter was not distributed perfectly evenly. Some regions were slightly denser than others, while some were slightly less dense. As the universe expanded, gravity acted on these tiny differences. The regions with more matter had stronger gravity, so they began to pull gas and dark matter towards themselves, growing even denser and forming galaxies and clusters. Conversely, the regions with less matter had weaker gravity. They could not hold on to their material. Over billions of years, matter was literally sucked out of these underdense regions and pulled into the surrounding filaments. In this view, the Boötes Void is simply a place where gravity lost the war, a giant empty bubble left behind as matter migrated to the margins of the cosmic web. But is gravity the whole story? Some scientists have proposed more radical ideas. They suggest that the Boötes Void might not actually be as empty as it looks. What if the void is filled with something that blocks light? We could be looking at massive clouds of cold, non-luminous gas, or dense pockets of dark matter that do not emit or absorb light in the electromagnetic spectrum. If this is true, there could be thousands of galaxies hidden in the dark, their light shielded from our instruments. Another highly speculative hypothesis comes from the scale of the Kardashev Type 3 civilization. Some theorists have wondered if we are looking at the expansion of an advanced species. As they expand across stars and galaxies, they would harvest their energy, encasing stars in Dyson spheres and turning entire galaxies dark. From our distant perspective, this expansion would look like a growing void. While there is no evidence for this, it shows how desperate we are to explain this silence. To understand the origin of the Boötes Void, we must look back to the very beginning of space and time. During cosmic inflation, the universe expanded exponentially, stretching subatomic physics to astronomical scales. The Boötes Void is a ghost from the beginning of time, a microscopic ripple in the Big Bang that stretched into a hole large enough to swallow millions of galaxies. While denser ripples collapsed to form stars, filaments, and galaxies, this underdense region expanded into a massive bubble of nothingness. It is a fossil of the Big Bang, a giant bubble of nothingness born from a quantum fluctuation. By studying it, we are looking directly at the structure of the early cosmos, scaled up to a size that defies human imagination. The Boötes Void is not just a relic of the past, it is a preview of the future. Right now, dark energy is accelerating the expansion of the universe. This expansion is pulling galaxies apart, but it acts most strongly on the voids. Voids are expanding faster than the rest of space. As they grow, they push the surrounding filaments of galaxies further away, stretching them until they tear. Over trillions of years, the cosmic web will dissolve completely. The galaxies that are not bound together by gravity will be swept away into isolation, separated by vast, infinite expanses of empty space. The Boötes Void will no longer be an anomaly. It will be the norm. The universe will become a collection of lonely islands, each completely invisible to the others, surrounded by an endless dark ocean. The nothingness that scares us today is slowly winning, expanding to swallow the entire cosmos. This cosmic solitude is terrifying, but it also highlights how incredibly fortunate we are. We live in a time when the cosmic web is still intact. We can look out into the night sky and see thousands of galaxies mapping the structure of our universe and tracing our history back to the Big Bang. We are not trapped in a dark, empty prison like the hypothetical observers at the center of Boötes. We have the light, and we have each other. If we were born in the void, our science would be blind and our sky would be black. But if you were stranded in that dark abyss, would you feel a sense of peace or absolute terror? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you are fascinated by these colossal cosmic structures, you need to see what scientists found hiding inside the largest supercluster in our nearby universe in this video here.